motivation, inspiration, a lot of information to implement on a final day of the week for perspiration, at least the normal work week. Many of us are in real estate, so the weekend is just another day of work for those that are out showing houses and open houses and all that fun stuff. That being said, we are right in the midst of Ninja Selling, Larry Kindle's seminal work on sales. You guys have been crushing the reading and even doing a better job on the conversations. Today is chapters 32 through 34, where we figure out how we're going to allocate our time and then start really getting into connecting and communicating and learning how people communicate. And of course, we got our books, we got our green highlighters, we're reading ahead of time, prepping, and I could talk for 45 minutes in this 30-minute window. And as always, it's your room. So I'm looking for hot mics, people ready to talk.
Not mine.
So if your mic is hot, that means I'm going to call on you. So pay attention to that. If you don't have the little red bottom left microphone, I'm going to call on you. So be ready for that. And Tom, my friend, lead us on.
Well, I have to confess that I went back and read some other stuff thinking I was ahead of the game. But every time you start this thing you talk about inspirational, that I always get the Muppet Show song stuck in my head. And so I just wanted to be grateful about that inspirational, conversational. This is how we start the Collio show. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself.
Well, also, I'm one of the two curmudgeons up in the balcony, okay? That'll be my role in that. All right. April, what do you got, my dear?
So he talks about the pie time. So productivity time, indirectly productivity time, and then everything else time. And he talks about how you can track it. I want to point out to everybody that there is an app and a website called Clockify. It's a super easy way to like track different tasks and super easy to just continue a task, stop it, go to a different one, and then resume too.
Awesome. And you should have all these pie time activities on your calendar, which kind of overlay something we've talked about before. So I want to get it back in the room, and that is the real estate job description, which, by the way, is almost any sales role job description. There are 4 pieces of it. Lead generate, which I call finding new relationships. Lead follow-up, which is building relationships and working on existing relationships. Going on appointments is step 3, meeting with buyers and sellers in the real estate space, and negotiating contracts is step 4. Lead gen, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts. And if you look at it related to pie time, you've got the productivity time, negotiating contracts, and being on appointments. And then you have the indirect productivity time of lead follow-up and lead generation. That's why I've always taught this as the order I gave you is the order of priority, how you schedule it, and it's the inverse of importance. If all you did all day, every day was negotiate contracts, you would all be obscenely wealthy individuals in the real estate space. If all you did every day, because it magically happened, was go on appointments and negotiate contracts, you'd all be extremely wealthy in the real estate space. It's that indirect time, lead gen, lead follow-up, that you guys have to do a lot more of to crank this wheel. And finally, the E, everything else, get it off your radar. And I know there were some other nuggets in here in this section. Sarah, I see you. And Kim, I've got you on deck.
So it's the same section in the pie. What does the white team represent? Distractions. The moonwalking bear resonated. I am very easily distracted.
Well, wait, and here's the interesting part of that, Sarah. Did you go find the video and watch it?
I did not find the video and watch it.
Okay,
No.
so it's out there, and the key is this: it's what you're focusing on. As Larry says in here, what you focus on expands.
That's right.
And so You need to focus on the moon walking bear, which, by the way, the morning ritual is set up. If you go into your social media or you go into your email first thing in the morning, whoop, attention's there on the white players rather than, quote, the moon walking bear. You make the focus to be leaning in on the moon walking bear, and magic's going to happen. And that's that. Lead gen, lead follow up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts. That's it.
Yeah. And so just to follow up on that, daily, I have been writing what Tom says. The distractions are the temptations to live off purpose. So again, I know I'm highly distractible. I can squirrel out just like all 7 of my dogs very easily. So I'm just trying to keep that up front. Like, don't let yourself get distracted. My phone rang at 9:59. I put it in decline.
So can you and I have a quick coaching moment for you and everybody else?
Yeah.
Because you just said, I am easily distracted.
I let myself easily get distracted.
Whatever it is it still an affirmation?
It's starting to work. So
Hold
yes,
on,
it
Sarah.
is an affirmation.
And it's a really bad one.
Wow.
Okay. So what I want you to focus instead, and this is for everybody there. Have you ever been in a project so in love with it you lost track of time and had an incredible process in there, whatever it is? Like for kids, it's playing video games. Okay. You've been in that space, haven't you, Sarah?
Well, I guess I'm maybe a misunderstanding. Did I write I'm easily distracted as one of my positive affirmations?
Well, again, here's what I'm talking about for you and everyone else.
Okay.
The words you use are your programming.
Right.
And when you say, I am easily distracted, you are anchoring that is who you are. And that is not who you are.
No, what I'm writing is exactly what Tom said. Distractions are the temptation to live off purpose. And
Great,
so
which is a wonderful overall statement. Again, I'm looking to you to get coachable here, Sarah, because your words were, I am blank. Whatever you guys put after I am will magically show up in your life. It will show up. If you say, I am easily distracted, that's your story, all of a sudden distractions show up. So I want you to catch the words you're using, not just the words you're writing, and change the story. And it's for you and everybody, okay?
Gotcha.
Awesome. Kim, what do you got? I think she got distracted.
I did. I got distracted.
Kim, come back.
I got distracted with the baby, so I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. And I know you got the little one there, and we always put family first in this world, don't we? I got you. Let's bounce back to Hagen.
What?
Yes, Hagen, your microphone's hot.
Oh, let me take it off.
Okay. Well, that's why I was coming to you. That means you want to talk. All right. Well, other than his microphone's off, his head is up. So, Dustin, what do you got, brother?
So number one, I'm going to put some stuff for database for you guys in there for memory jogging to start building that. I didn't do it yesterday. But there's a quote, an old Epictetus, I think it is, the Greek philosopher, says, events do not just happen, but arrive by appointment. Ooh. So I'm going to go off of what you were talking about, Russ, is when you're talking about that pie time, Larry hinted at it, but not all of the activities in the pie time for P are created equal. The most important appointments are the discussions that you guys are having with buyers and sellers for the representation agreement, period. Without it, you don't have the negotiations. But what Russ was saying is the I time, right? So let's say you guys look at this like an hourglass, right? The top half of the hourglass is going to be all your lead generation, all your follow-up. That's what's going to funnel down into your seller and your buyer appointments, the bottleneck of all real estate. Because if you run a big, huge brokerage team, you can then pay everybody to either do the top half of the funnel or the bottom half of the funnel, the closing, client liaison. You can do contract negotiations with a licensed escrow manager or anything like that. And this is kind of setting up Larry for the second half of this book, but this is why he's going to start focusing on the most important thing that you guys need to be following with, which is those appointments with your buyers and your sellers. It's like the Olympics of real estate. So
So Dustin, do you have Larry's, because you were talking about the database piece, do you have Larry's database jogger list?
I think I do too. I can put that in as well.
Yeah, because I'm desire for us to be true to the content we're working and staying in that lane so we don't bunny trail any other way. So let's make sure we grab that, bring that in here. It's awesome. And I love your understanding of really that important piece in there that we've got to be on those appointments. So that means that your indirect, your eye time, have in the back of your mind that the purpose of those is to set appointments. That's what you're doing there. Alicia, what do you got?
Okay, so on a couple of things. So I'm just going to say that in my schedule, it is no longer call time, it is interview time. So I remember to shut up and let them talk. And then the other thing is on the pie log, where do we put E? Like, are we even tracking E? Or I see I hours, P hours, but I don't see anything for E.
So here's the fun part to do this, because the issue is you shouldn't be doing E. A highly effective real estate agent isn't doing E stuff. So set yourself for, just do it for 1 week next week. Set an alarm on your phone to ring every 15 minutes, and whatever you're doing in that moment, write down. Make a log. And all of a sudden, you'll get real about how much E time is eating into your success. Okay? Now, there's some E stuff you quote have to do that before you can do pie time, because you really can't do pie time at 6 in the morning. So you do it at 5. And you shouldn't be doing pie time at 9 o'clock at night. So, hey, you can do some E stuff then. My rule of thumb is that you're going to check 2 boxes every day. If you're really working the I time, check these 2 boxes every day, and I will give you ominous dominus that you can then do E time after that. Box number 1, 20 conversations.
Hello, Mr. Doug.
Doug. Box number 2, set one appointment. So here's what it looks like. You're having conversations. Conversation number 6, you set an appointment. Awesome, yay. And you still have the other 14 conversations, so you can check the 20 box. You get to 20 conversations. You have not yet set an appointment. You keep having conversations. You don't do any E stuff. If you check those 2 boxes every day, 5 days a week, that is the formula for $1 million revenue. It's that simple. 20 conversations a day, check. 1 appointment set every day, check. You will have $1 million revenue. Yet we get focused on all the other superfluous crap. What else do you guys have? I know it was
focusing, we're talking about focusing. I know that for me yesterday, I was in call time, and I'm going to make that happen more often. I'm getting to the point where I don't care anymore. And let me explain that. It's 2025. I want to do something different. I really don't care if someone wants me to call them or not. I'm getting to the point where my family needs to be fed. I got stuff that needs to happen. I'm gonna do it anyway. Is that consistently like this all the time? No, it's kind of like this, but I'm looking for that transition to get higher and higher. The cool thing is that point of focus that I appreciated yesterday in call time is the other agents that were there with me, and we were collectively moving, focusing in the same direction. So when we talk about focusing, I know I am a total squirrel. I'm a total squirrel. I know that.
No,
So
actually, I would argue with you vehemently, client, because I have seen you focus. And again, like I was talking earlier, when you say I am a total squirrel, that's what's
I
going to
got
show
you.
up.
I
Not
got you. I
enough.
got you.
Remember
I got you.
earlier, your subconscious does not know if you're lying or telling the truth. Your subconscious does not have a sense of humor.
Okay.
You, my friend, are deadly focused, and I have experienced it.
I can be a squirrel at times, but I'm not going to accept that moving forward.
Awesome. I'm changing your guys' language. April, what do you got?
So to touch on the DISC properties or personalities, I wanted to point out that I did do like a DISC assessment before my other job as well. And it's really good to keep in mind that if like I'm a high S and C, so somebody with a high D, I have to work around a little bit, be a bit more direct. I want to have conversation. They want to get straight to the point. So it's really good to kind of keep it always in the back of your mind what they are, what you are, and what you need to do, kind of meeting halfway for them too.
So how do you know what someone's style is, April?
Well, you have a conversation with them. You figure out what, like, how they make decisions, figure out how they interact with other people. You can kind of see it, especially for like a high I. They are like the life of the party. They're the person that when they come in, everybody really just attracts to them. A high D, they're the person that really shows drive. High S, they're more statistical. They want all the data in front of them. High C, they're going to be more careful. So if you just have a conversation with people, you can really like pinpoint where they are in that just from what they say and how they interact with you.
So how many of you, by show of hands, would like my magic disc question that I bring into every conversation early that gets you the answer? Raise your hands high. Okay. If you stick around, I'm going to stop the recording at the end and only give it to the people that are in the room. And I will help you guys with this, and it's a lot of fun. I'll give you the framework, show you how to do it. Caesar, you're up. Camacho, you're right on deck, and I see two more mics hot as well.
I just want to expand on what April was saying. This is very so important. It's unbelievable because the personality types, you can literally ruin a relationship if you are approaching it the wrong way. Just as April said, if you're more of a party person, the I or the S, and you're talking to a D, you're literally wasting their time. That's how they feel if you're talking about what happened this weekend. Now, they'll like to talk about that after you speak about what's happening in the bottom line. And then again, the party people will get same thing is the opposite. They'll get a little upset if you go right into like the business to be like, wow, this guy just wants to talk about business and that's it. So that's ultimately so important ultimately to also know yourself. I think I've mentioned this before, the book called Surrounded by Idiots. It sounds pretty harsh, but it's a very similar thing, and it does people on colors. The basis of that book is you feel you're surrounded by idiots because you're not there. People are not like you. So that's another thing, another piece of when people recognize, oh, that guy's like me. There's like another extra connection there. So I just wanted to expand a little bit on that. That it's like really, really important. First of all, to know what you are, and I think we talked about this before, Coach. I took this long time ago in my prior brokerage, and I was like a high C followed by a high D. And then I took it again, maybe like not a few months ago, or was 6 months ago or so. And I think I was like an S and an I. It was something different, completely different than I was. And I was like, is that possible? And I think we talked about it that yes, because we're starting to we change our personalities and adjust to this business. Because maybe before I was a little bit way more analytical, introverted, but I could also flip on that other side. And now maybe I finagle my way to the S and the S. I forget what it was, but it was different than what it was before. The bottom line. So I just want to expand a little bit on that point that April brought.
Yeah, and actually, Matt, that was a question I'm going to ask, so I'll still ask it because not everybody saw that. Caesar, what might have changed in your life that made you a little softer and a little more of a people person over the last year or two?
I had a child, so yeah.
Yeah, that'll change you, brother. That'll change you. That'll soften you up just a touch, Matt. And great
Great point.
observation on your part. Matt is one of our great lender partners who was a team leader at a previous broker and absolutely implemented this at a high level. Camacho, you're up, brother.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to April talk about the significance of the disc. That when you're looking at that, for those of you that have read the book Ninja, not Ninja, the Chris Voss book, Never Split the Difference, he also breaks this down into the three negotiating types. Are you an aggressive negotiator, an accommodating negotiator, or the analyzer? And that is significant when you are negotiating, not only with your clients, because we all negotiate with our clients, especially with co-op agents, and especially with the people we love, the ones that are around us, because silence is interpreted very differently. If you're an accommodator and there's silence, you interpret that as, oh my gosh, I did something. They don't like me. They're pissed at me. What did I do? And if you're an assertive, if there's silence, you believe you ought to keep talking because the other side's just wondering what else you need to say. And the analyzer loves silence. They're the process folks, like the C's and the S's, and they love silence. And if you break their silence, you actually lose some momentum that you may have gained. So just a thought on that. And I've got a question too, Russ. I'm going to save mine for later, or maybe give it before yours. I'm asking a question to identify what a disc is, what their disc is, and just one question. It's really fascinating, and you can identify that based on the way, oftentimes on the way they dress, what people have in their house, their pictures, the stuff in their house, their furniture type, the car they drive. There's so many really cool things that you can do to learn about that. It's a fascinating study, April.
Well, I will say, if it comes to the house, you won't learn a thing about me, but you'll learn everything about my spouse. Celeste, you're up, my dear.
I'm going to add on to this, and that is that there are people that you can read what kind of disc profile they have, including knowing who you are. But I also think that knowing and really learning different sales techniques can be very powerful. And one of them is something as obvious as, if someone is presenting an offer to you, it does not hurt to say, what comparables did you use? Because even if you're the listing agent, to learn what the buyer's using as their reference may be able to really give you insight as to maybe they're using wrong data. And you can help by correcting that. Or simply
get into a lot of this as we get into more of Larry's content and Larry's way of doing it. Mark Adams, what do you got, brother?
So when I meet with a client, typically what happens is you get a phone call or email, and it's from one of the decision makers, and there's a bit of conversation up front with that one decision maker, right? We ask specific questions up front, so we have a fair amount of information from that one decision maker. And then when we go to make the appointment, I always make sure, if there's more than one decision maker, they're at the meeting. I never go on a meeting unless all decision makers are there, because you're going to shoot yourself in the frickin' foot. The first thing I do when I sit down with them, I say, look, I've had a lot of conversation with decision maker number one. We've talked. I've got questions. I've got answers for those. I haven't asked you any questions at all. Before we get started, what's important to you? And I'm trying to figure out what their disc is, sometimes on the fly, because I want to know what's important to them. And I just say, look, I got a consultation that I'm going to go over. It's about an hour. It's got a ton of information. I'm going to go over it really fast. Just stop me if you have any questions. But I really want to know what's important to you. And that's what we'll talk about, rather than the 10 things I think is important. I want to talk about the things that are important to them. And really, the presentation gets boiled down to, or the consultation gets boiled down to, the things that are important to the decision maker. So just learn from my mistakes. Never take appointment unless all the decision makers are there, because what's important to that person is not necessarily important to the other person, and they're going to miss half of the consultation.
So here's one other fun piece on that, because we're talking about learning their discs. So I am a high DI. I'm on the north side of the disc chart. What do you guys think my spouse is?
Opposite.
C.
Odds are, and it's not always, but odds are that there's going to be some distinct separation when you have multiple decision makers that are a married couple. So now you get to make sure that you're taking care of all the quadrants or 3 of the 4 quadrants during your conversation. So you get to be, the key of this is you get to be the chameleon. You get to change you to give them their style. Your goal is not to get them to change to be you. You will not make headway that way. Jeanette, my dear, you're up.
I was looking at page 179, the decision strategies, and how once we've determined who they are, how they're presenting themselves, and who's the main decision maker. So the power and the party people. Shall we see if we can buy this? And the peace and perfection people, well, shall we make sure we don't lose this property? So you might have both of them. If you have both of them in the room, it sounds like you might present both of those to get a sense of who's where. And so those two statements right there is and the whole goal of it is not manipulation. The goal is, it says on the next page, part of the ninja process is to help customers become clear and confident.
So yes, you guys are going to be getting better and better at this. You're going to be learning as you go, and the best way to do that is to actually get into action. You're not going to, I have internalized this book and this is what I'm doing going forward. It's going to be a learning progression. In fact, we have people that were in here a year ago, back in learning all kinds of new stuff because they're back in the content a second time. So love you're here. It's been a powerful week and can't wait to see you Monday. Just so you know, we're going to get through chapter 37, about 15 pages. All right.